It's showtime!
Hey, and welcome to Show Me Some Television, the program where I, thanks to the Shomi service from Rogers, which I'm currently getting for free, am able to binge watch some television, which I really needed to catch up on. And I thought I'd give you my thoughts on whatever it is I watch. So, in this one, I'm going to be talking seasons 1 through 4 of Lost Girl. Now, I had heard of Lost Girl. Clearly, it's pretty popular. Years ago, I think it came out in 2010 originally. And oddly enough, it seemed that it was mostly girls who were into it. And after watching it, I do see a very strong, sultry romance. So almost like as if Laurel K. Hamilton wrote the program. So I can see what the interest there was for them. What is Lost Girl about? Well, Lost Girl refers to a girl named Bo, or woman, I should say. And she is a succubus. And at the beginning of the series, essentially she thinks she's, human, and she's got some problems because, she's killing people and she doesn't know why or how or, what's going on. She doesn't know she's a succubus. And eventually, she discovers that there are some, what they call fae, or essentially like fairy folk, and a whole other world that's out there, and she is part of that, and she is a succubus. Thus enter, other characters, other, fairy folk, and of course her human friend, Kenzie, who is essentially a teenager with sort of, nouveau goth styles, and, she's Russian, and she's a street kid, so she's got, all the street kid skills, she can pick locks and steal stuff and, pickpocket and such like that. And so, it's sort of the adventures of her, discovering who she is, and no longer becoming the lost girl, essentially. And I'll put lost girl in quotations. Simply because, though you could argue that the first season in a, total, she is a lost girl, she really is only a lost girl for, like, first couple of episodes. Because, once she discovers this other world, these other characters, and what she is, she's not really lost anymore. She isn't necessarily informed, but, I mean, that's like calling a 4-year-old a lost kid. They just don't know any better yet. They don't have all the details. A 12-year-old doesn't know everything. But she's learning just like anything, and she goes through it, and it's essentially what like some shows out there, I would say this show really falls and depends heavily on sex. Of course, the main character is a succubus, so, sex. And, everybody in the show is essentially, very, very, very attractive people. Lots of sex, lots of, implied nudity. There's a little bit of nudity in the program, but most of it's really implied. A lot of tease. As such, that's really what is selling this program outside of, the stories themselves. In the first season, it's, Bo eventually finds out who her mom is. She didn't know who her real mom was before. Eventually she finds out about other relatives, and she finds out about, the other relatives come in later seasons, but, she finds out about how there's there's light fae and dark fae, and there's two different, sanctions, and, they're currently at a peace of sorts, but they're, you know, constantly like picking at each other, and there's Fae police. You know, one of the rules is, you know, you can't do anything that may draw attention to the Fae, because obviously if people knew that there were fairies, there would be a, you know, they'd probably get hunted down type thing, even though they don't really hint at that. It's always about the war between the light and the dark, though nobody really says, oh, you know what, if they knew about us, then yeah, the humans would come after us, and, you know, they really outnumber us now. But yeah, that's one thing that kept going through my mind. But yeah, so through, you know, the first season, it's a lot of discovering the characters, you know, the mythology behind it. And one of the things I liked about it was how the show would portray certain fairy folk, you know, because all of these fae are essentially masquerading as humans, right? So they're humanoid and human looking for the most part, with, you know, slight differences and manipulations and such like that. So yeah, it was interesting every, you know, episode to see, you know, what new fairy folk was going to come out and what they looked like and how they were portrayed in the show. So I kind of like that. The characters themselves, you know what, give or take, they all have major flaws. And like I don't think it mattered who it was. There's nobody in this show who's truthful. There's nobody who's really intelligent. Everybody thinks they know better than anybody else. And the two characters that drive me nuts the most, that think this way and are constantly doing stuff that they shouldn't, are, you know, Bo the succubus and Kenzie, her human friend, who have no knowledge of this, you know, the way things are, and the amount of stuff that they actually get away with when, you know, truth be told, most of the stuff they should have just been killed for. You know, it's like, we broke the laws here. Oh, well, she's the succubus. Don't, whatever. And it's like, but what? That person over there broke the laws. You killed them. What's going on? I don't understand why they get a pass. You know, like, oh, she's the unaligned, so she didn't pick light or dark. So, you know, whatever. She, you know, eventually she does get, you know, there's episodes where she's done something and you know, she's come under scrutiny and she might get killed, but oh no, it was something else. It wasn't exactly what you thought, so it's okay. She gets off. And yeah, so honestly, I don't get the lost girl thing. She's not lost. And the fact that they had the same opening title sequence every episode through all 4 seasons so far, and I'm gonna guess it's into season 5 now. Obviously I haven't seen it, it hasn't completed yet. I'm guessing it's still the same title sequence, which by the end of season 1 doesn't make any sense because everything mentioned in it is no longer valid. So yeah, good work to you television producers. Yeah, like I said, I've watched 4 seasons of it, and I do enjoy it. I do like seeing where things go. I would say the first 3 seasons tend to be the best. The 4th season got a little bit everybody's just sort of running around. There is no real direction. Things are hinted at but never really, you know, explained. There's stuff that's mentioned but never followed through on. And yeah, there's just a lot of people who they don't act the way I would think they should in this program. Yeah, honestly, the amount of lying and deceit that's going on in this show is mind-boggling. It's like people figure out who this Bo character is. She's apparently, you know, really important, very important in terms of their prophecies and mythologies and etc., etc., etc. and yet nobody is willing to give her any information. It's like, we're just going to try and keep her in the dark. Meanwhile, the entire time she's trying to figure this stuff out. So it's like, eventually, you know, she's going to come to some kind of conclusion, and hopefully, you know, it's the right one. Oh, but you know what? If you just told her, you know, some of the history right off the bat, maybe some of these things wouldn't happen. And yeah, it's amazing how many of these, you know, the bad stuff that happens in this show come about simply because people aren't talking to each other. It's kind of frustrating, actually. It's the first couple of seasons. There's a lot of episodes where, Bo and Kenzie, they need to make money, so they start up sort of like a detective agency where they'll help out, you know, fae folk and circumvent the system, you know, the fairy system. And so that's how they, you know, essentially make their money. But yeah, it seems to go out the window more and more. I think in season 4 there was maybe like one case. and it's like, this is how these people live, and they're constantly, like, I mean, these two girls are boozing it up, like, I mean, alcohol all the time, new outfits, food, like, I mean, the amount of money they must spend is outrageous. And yet, you know, I'm not seeing them work for much. A lot of times they're taking stuff pro bono. And it's like, seriously, now there must be a lot of episodes, you know, like episodes you just don't see where, yes, they must have taken a case during that period in between these two episodes. Because, hey, look, they just bought a new outfit. Yeah. I kind of hark on these type of things because it drives me nuts, especially when you binge watch. When you binge watch these television shows, it can really stick out, especially that opening sequence. But yeah, Lost Girl. One of the things I like is it's shot in Toronto, so I'm constantly trying to figure out where, you know, things are taking place. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do that. Really, when you know, an entire show is shot where you live, and if you have a good enough idea of the city, you can, you know what it's like normally, right? So when they do their set design and stuff like that, you can still see it for what it is. That's, you know, a good and a bad thing. And that gets me to another thing, is the set design in this program. For their main sets, you know, Bo and Kenzie's shack apartment thing, or the bar where they hang out, like everybody hangs out, the set design on those is really good. Really good. For some of the other things, yeah, not so much. It's like you can clearly see that they're trying to make something look like something on a very, very small budget, and they just sort of, you know, oh, we're gonna plant a camper here and some barrels over here, maybe a crate over here, and look, it looks like a rundown area, and you're just like, yeah, not so much. It's really clean. It's clear that, you know, you've put this into like a parking lot, and yeah. Sometimes they did a really good job, but other times you're watching it and you're like, oh, that doesn't look realistic at all. That looks so fake. Which kind of sucks because it does take you out of the episode, but whatever. Some final thoughts on Lost Girl. I've been going on and telling you about it. Honestly, if you like sultry, you like sexy, and you like fantasy, Lost Girl is totally up your alley. If the idea of constantly seeing the main character have sex, you know, in between, you know, fight sequences, because that's how she heals, doesn't interest you, then, you know, I'm sorry, but you're probably gonna lose interest in Lost Girl really quickly. But yeah, and you know what? Modern fairy tale, if that at all, you know, floats your boat and it's something that you're interested in, I would say give Lost Girl a shot. You may find it's definitely worthwhile. Like I said, seasons 1 and 2 probably the best. 3 would be next. 4 is a little sketchy. I don't know about season 5. Haven't started watching it yet, but when it comes out, if I still have Shomi, I will probably be here again talking about Lost Girl season 5. But until that time, this is Lost Girl seasons 1 through 4. I'm Rob. Take care. Have a good one.